I'm terribly surprised, and I'm terribly grateful to the Academy, and I'd just like to thank everyone, and I'd like to thank my two families, the Waltons and the Thomases. Thank you very, very much.
Richard Thomas seemed destined to become one of television's biggest stars. As the heart and soul of the Waltons, millions of viewers couldn't imagine the series without him. Every week, audiences welcomed Jon Walton into their homes as if he were part of their own family. But behind the scenes, the young actor was quietly wrestling with a decision that would change both his life and the future of one of television's most beloved dramas. Surprisingly, his departure was only the beginning. Over the years, one cast member after another would leave under circumstances that ranged from heartbreaking medical emergencies to personal sacrifices and career-defining choices. Some departures were expected. Others shocked both the cast and fans alike. And together, they revealed a hidden side of the Waltons that viewers never saw during those comforting goodnight scenes. When the Waltons premiered in 1972, it quickly became much more than another family drama. At a time when television was filled with crime shows, sitcoms, and social conflicts, this quiet story about a struggling family living through the Great Depression felt refreshingly sincere. Its warmth, honesty, and simple values made audiences fall in love almost instantly. At the center of that success stood Richard Thomas. Jon Walton wasn't just another television character. He was the narrator, the dreamer, and the emotional bridge connecting every member of the Walton family. Through his eyes, viewers experienced both hardship and hope. Richard Thomas brought a quiet intelligence and sensitivity to the role that earned him a Primetime Emmy Award only a year after the series debuted. Practically overnight, he became one of the most recognizable young actors in America. But while millions envied his success, Thomas was becoming increasingly uneasy. Before joining the Waltons, he had studied acting seriously and dreamed of building a career across theater, films, and television. As each season passed, however, he noticed that people no longer saw Richard Thomas. They only saw Jon Walton. Every interview, every public appearance, every audition reminded him that the character's popularity was slowly defining his entire career. The role that had made him famous was beginning to feel like a trap. By the end of the 5th season, Thomas reached a difficult conclusion. He feared that if he stayed too long, he might never escape the shadow of Jon. Despite the show's enormous popularity, he informed producers that he wanted to leave and pursue other opportunities. For fans, the announcement came as a shock. The writers carefully crafted a believable farewell by sending Jon to New York to pursue his lifelong dream of becoming a professional writer. It fit the character perfectly and allowed the story to continue without killing him off. Producers even left the door open, hoping Thomas might eventually return. But replacing the emotional center of the series proved almost impossible. Eventually, actor Robert Whiteman stepped into the role for the later seasons. Although he worked hard to honor the character, longtime viewers immediately noticed something had changed. It wasn't simply that Jon looked different. The entire emotional rhythm of the series shifted. Storylines were redistributed among the other Walton children, and while the show remained successful, many fans felt that a piece of its original magic had disappeared. Ironically, the career Thomas imagined after leaving never unfolded quite as expected. He found steady work in theater, television movies, and occasional film projects, earning respect throughout the industry. But none of those roles ever matched the cultural impact of Jon Walton. Years later, Thomas openly admitted that he had underestimated what the role truly meant, not only to audiences but to his own career. What he once feared would limit him eventually became the very performance for which generations would remember him. Fortunately, he later returned to portray Jon in several reunion films, giving fans the reunion they had hoped for and proving that some roles never truly leave an actor behind. While Richard Thomas chose to leave, another beloved cast member had no such choice. Geer, who portrayed Grandpa Walton, became one of television's most cherished grandfather figures. His warm smile, gentle wisdom, and unforgettable storytelling made him feel authentic in every scene. Many viewers assumed the actor himself had lived a peaceful life much like the character he portrayed. The truth was dramatically different. Long before the Waltons, Geer had built a successful acting career while also becoming deeply involved in political activism. During the tense years following World War II, many Hollywood performers were investigated for their political beliefs. Geer refused to cooperate with congressional investigations targeting alleged communist sympathizers. The consequences were devastating. Hollywood effectively shut its doors on him. For years, Geer found himself blacklisted from major film and television productions. Work became scarce, forcing him to rely on stage performances, community theater, and whatever opportunities he could find simply to continue acting. An accomplished performer suddenly found himself treated as though he no longer existed. Many careers never recovered from Hollywood's blacklist. Remarkably, Geer's did. As attitudes gradually changed during the 1960s, opportunities slowly returned. Then, in 1972, the Waltons offered him a chance not only to work again but to become one of television's most beloved father figures. The irony couldn't have been greater. The man who spent years being pushed aside for standing by his convictions ended up portraying the steady moral foundation of America's favorite television family. Sadly, his time on the series ended not because of a creative decision but because of real life. In April 1978, during the show's production, Geer passed away at the age of 76. Rather than replacing him, producers chose to honor both the actor and his character by writing Grandpa Walton's death into the story. The loss deeply affected everyone involved. Cast members later recalled that Geer's absence was felt long after filming resumed. His chair on the porch suddenly seemed empty in more ways than one, and the emotional weight carried into countless scenes that followed. Yet perhaps the most heartbreaking departure involved someone whose battle unfolded while cameras were still rolling. Ellen Corby had spent decades building a respected career before becoming Grandma Esther Walton. With her sharp wit, loving heart, and unforgettable expressions, she perfectly balanced Grandpa Walton's warmth. Together, they created one of television's most believable elderly couples. Audiences adored her. Awards followed naturally. Corby won 3 primetime Emmy Awards for her performance, cementing herself as one of the series' strongest performers. Then everything changed almost overnight. During production of the 5th season, Ellen Corby suffered a severe stroke that dramatically affected both her speech and mobility. Suddenly, one of the show's most recognizable faces was fighting for her health instead of preparing for another day on set. The production faced an incredibly difficult decision. Replacing Grandma Walton would have been easier from a television standpoint. Instead, the producers chose something far more compassionate. Rather than pretending nothing had happened, they incorporated Corby's real-life medical crisis directly into the storyline. Grandma Walton also suffered a stroke, allowing audiences to experience her long recovery alongside the Walton family. It was an unusually honest decision for television at the time. Even after months of rehabilitation, Corby could no longer work the demanding schedule she once had. When she eventually returned, her appearances were carefully reduced to accommodate her physical limitations. Yet every scene she filmed carried a deeper emotional weight because viewers understood that both the actress and the character were overcoming the same struggle. Her determination inspired not only the cast but millions watching at home. Still, despite these heartbreaking challenges, the biggest surprise was yet to come. One of the series' most celebrated stars would eventually walk away voluntarily, even after winning 4 Emmy Awards and becoming the emotional heart of the Walton family. That decision would reveal another hidden truth about life behind television's happiest family. Michael Learned became the emotional anchor of the Waltons from the very first episode. As Olivia Walton, she portrayed a mother who carried the weight of an entire household with quiet strength, endless patience, and unwavering compassion. She wasn't loud or dramatic. Instead, she represented the kind of resilience that millions of families recognized from their own lives. It was a performance so authentic that television critics honored her with 4 primetime Emmy Awards during the series' run. By every measure, she had achieved extraordinary success. Yet behind the applause, another reality was taking shape. Producing a hit television drama in the 1970s demanded an exhausting schedule. Cast members often spent 9 or 10 months each year filming episode after episode with little time for anything else. After 7 consecutive seasons, Learned found herself emotionally and physically drained. Contrary to what many assumed, she wasn't leaving because of disagreements with the cast or producers. Years later, she explained that she simply wanted her own life back. She wanted time to explore other acting opportunities, reconnect with herself, and escape the relentless pace that had dominated nearly a decade of her career. Sometimes success carries a price that isn't visible to anyone watching at home. To explain Olivia Walton's absence, the writers gave the character tuberculosis and sent her away to a sanitarium for long-term treatment. The storyline allowed the family to remain hopeful while keeping the door open for Learn's eventual return. She did come back for later episodes and reunion movies, but her departure changed the emotional balance of the series. Richard Thomas had left searching for greater career opportunities. Michael Learned left searching for peace. Their reasons were entirely different, yet both revealed how even the most beloved television shows can quietly demand enormous personal sacrifices from the people who create them. Interestingly, Michael Learned almost never played Olivia Walton at all. Before production officially began, the role had belonged to Academy Award-winning actress Patricia Neal. Neal was already considered one of Hollywood's finest dramatic performers, and series creator Earl Hamner Jr. believed she possessed exactly the strength and authenticity needed for the family's matriarch. Everything seemed set. Then real life intervened. Several years earlier, Patricia Neal had suffered 3 devastating strokes while pregnant with her 5th child. The medical crisis nearly ended both her life and her acting career. Although her recovery amazed doctors and eventually allowed her to return to films, the demands of starring in a weekly television series proved far too demanding. With great disappointment, she withdrew before filming started. That unexpected opening allowed Michael Learned to step into the role that would ultimately define her career. It's fascinating to imagine how different the Waltons might have felt with another actress leading the family. Yet history often turns on moments nobody expects. Patricia Neal's heartbreaking health battle unintentionally created the opportunity that introduced millions of viewers to Michael Learned's unforgettable Olivia Walton. While some actors left because of illness or exhaustion, one of the youngest members of the cast made perhaps the most surprising decision of all. Cotler spent nearly her entire childhood playing Elizabeth Walton. She was only 6 years old when filming began and 15 by the time the series ended. Like many child stars, she could easily have continued building an acting career after the cameras stopped rolling. Instead, she walked away completely. There were no desperate attempts to remain famous. No endless auditions chasing another hit series. She chose education. Cotler attended college, earned teaching credentials, and eventually built a career in the classroom rather than on television sets. Looking back, she has never expressed regret over that decision. While many former child actors struggled to adjust to life after fame, she found fulfillment in a completely different world. Her story remains one of Hollywood's rare examples of someone willingly leaving fame behind without bitterness or second thoughts. Another cast member also discovered that his greatest passion existed beyond acting. Jon Walmsley, who portrayed Jason Walton, had always possessed remarkable musical talent. On the show, Jason frequently played guitar and dreamed of building a life through music. Those scenes weren't simply acting. Walmsley was genuinely devoted to music long before cameras began rolling. After the Waltons concluded, rather than aggressively pursuing acting roles, he gradually shifted toward composing, producing, and performing music professionally. For him, the television series became less of a destination and more of a stepping stone toward the career he had always imagined. In many ways, Jason Walton's fictional journey reflected Walmsley's own. Then there was Ralph Waite, the man who portrayed Jon Walton Sr. To audiences, he represented calm leadership, reliability, and moral strength. Week after week, viewers saw a father who held his family together regardless of the hardships they faced. Years later, however, Waite openly discussed a struggle few fans ever suspected. During portions of the series, he battled alcohol dependency in private, while continuing to portray television's ideal father. The contrast between his public image and private challenges revealed something deeply human. Even those who appear strongest can be fighting invisible battles. Eventually, Waite overcame those struggles and later became an ordained minister, bringing an even deeper appreciation to the values his character had represented for so many years. The younger cast members carried burdens of their own. Growing up before millions of viewers sounds glamorous, but it often comes with pressures few children are prepared to handle. Mary McDonough, who played Erin Walton, later revealed that concerns about appearance and body image during her teenage years contributed to serious health problems that affected her long after the series ended. Judy Norton, remembered as Mary Ellen Walton, also spoke candidly about the challenge of separating her own identity from the character audiences believed they knew. For years, viewers expected the actresses to remain the wholesome Walton daughters they had watched every Thursday night, even as they matured into adults with lives entirely different from the roles they played. It was a reminder that fame often freezes performers in time while real life continues moving forward. Looking back today, a remarkable pattern begins to emerge. Richard Thomas left searching for creative freedom. Michael Learned left searching for balance. Will Geer's journey ended because of his passing. Ellen Corby fought her way back after a devastating stroke. Patricia Neal never even reached the starting line because of her earlier medical battle. Cammy Cotler discovered happiness outside Hollywood. Jon Walmsley followed music instead of acting. Ralph Waite quietly fought personal demons while portraying television's strongest father. Mary McDonough and Judy Norton carried the hidden emotional weight of growing up under the spotlight. Each story was different, yet together they revealed something surprisingly powerful. The Waltons portrayed a family overcoming hardship every single week. Off camera, the actors themselves were facing illnesses, career uncertainties, emotional exhaustion, personal struggles, and life-changing decisions that audiences rarely knew about. Perhaps that's why the series still resonates decades later. The warmth viewers felt wasn't manufactured. The compassion between the cast often reflected genuine affection developed through years of working, celebrating, grieving, and supporting one another behind the scenes. When reunion movies brought many of the original actors back together during the 1980s and 1990s, fans noticed something impossible to fake. The chemistry was still there. Time had passed. Careers had changed. Some dreams had been fulfilled while others had taken unexpected turns. But the connection remained. That may be the greatest legacy the Waltons left behind. Not because every actor stayed for every season. Not because every career unfolded exactly as planned. But because despite departures, illnesses, disappointments, and personal battles, the people who created television's most beloved family never completely lost the bond they built together. The famous goodnight scenes suggested that family means standing beside one another through life's hardest moments. Ironically, the cast lived that lesson in ways audiences couldn't see. Behind every farewell was another chapter. Behind every absence was another story. And perhaps that's the real reason these actors left the Waltons. They weren't simply walking away from a television show. They were following the unpredictable paths that real life placed before them. Some were chasing dreams. Others were protecting their health, reclaiming their personal lives, or discovering new purposes beyond Hollywood. In the end, what makes the Waltons so unforgettable isn't that its cast experienced perfect lives. It's that, despite all the unseen hardships behind the cameras, they created something that still feels honest, comforting, and timeless more than 4 decades later. That enduring legacy proves the family audiences fell in love with may have been fictional, but the respect, resilience, and lasting connection shared by the people who brought it to life were undeniably real.